access to the B-2 has been highly classified until recently, when the United States Air Force invited the public to take a closer look at the aircraft to see if they were getting their money's worth. Dennis Gaffney takes us along on the flight to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, where the veil of secrecy shrouding the B-2 bomber is lifted.
In 1996, the General Accounting Office issued a report on the progress of the B-2 stealth bomber. Among the issues covered in the report was the cost and availability of maintenance when the aircraft was to be deployed in the field. The language of the report was not terribly clear, as it was widely interpreted by the press that the ultra-expensive aircraft lost its stealth characteristics in the rain. A considerable drawback for an aircraft that costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 to $2 billion. Considering the somewhat hefty sticker price, the B-2 has had its detractors and out of Congress. The GAO report added fuel to the opponent's fire. The Air Force responded with uncharacteristic candor for a classified project like the B-2. The logic being that the best way to defend the stealth project would be to bring it out in the open. The Air Force invited members of the press to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri to tell their side of the story.
So we are allowing unprecedented access because we think it's important to the American people. They've spent a lot of money on this asset, and they deserve to know what the bottom line is. And the bottom line is this airplane is ready to go into combat.
We departed Andrews Air Force Base in Washington aboard a KC-10 tanker for our flight to Whiteman Air Force Base. When airborne, we were treated to the first ever view of the B-2 during an aerial refueling, a crucial part of the B-2's long-range mission capability and a spectacular sight. The refueling process is a vital step in the global role assigned to the B-2. As a first strike weapon system able to take out enemy command and control centers in a matter of hours after the onset of hostilities. Despite its reptilian appearance, pilots say the B-2 flies pretty much like any other bomber. This is due to the plane's fly-by-wire computer systems that constantly monitor control functions. From their base in Missouri, B-2 pilots can fly their aircraft non-stop anywhere on the globe. The aircraft's stealth capability combined with sophisticated electronic countermeasures allows the B-2 to slip unnoticed into enemy territory. Once over the target, the B-2 can drop up to 16 GPS-guided weapons, hitting 16 different targets, dead on. It could take days, even weeks, to deploy conventional units to accomplish the same task from a forward staging area. The Air Force estimates that one B-2 with a crew of 2 could replace 75 attack and support aircraft and hundreds of aircrew and support personnel, greatly reducing the number of aircraft and airmen placed in harm's way. Using its precision-guided weapons, the aircraft has the potential of reducing civilian casualties on the ground as well. What is different about it is the human factor. Pilots are expected to fly missions of 25 hours or more in some cases. Some program critics have questioned the effectiveness of a crew in battle after so many hours in the air. But the pilots say they're ready for it, and the Air Force makes sure of it. This B-2 crew just emerged from a 27-hour simulator training mission, a bit unshaven, but not much worse for the wear.
We just flew a pretty realistic combat scenario, and it's pretty challenging, but the adrenaline pretty much kept me going. And test your endurance, and you find out what you're capable of doing. 15 or 20 hours into a sortie, you can really tell if your skills are still present.
The airplane's computers help us manage the workload so that one person can handle things just fine, assuming you sleep at the right times.
Captain Smith is sitting in the cockpit of a Block 30 B-2. This is the only fully operational B-2 in the inventory. And this is the first time news crews have been allowed to shoot inside the cockpit.
But it can be done in either seat. So, but this is
which does not look terribly high-tech when it's not turned on. That's because the B-2 makes extensive use of what's called glass cockpit technology. The pilot in the left seat and the mission commander in the right can program any one of several computer screens in a variety of combinations. Screens can display navigation, radar, fire control, engine instrumentation, available at either position, allowing distribution of the workload. The B-2 is powered by 4 GE F-118 engines, no afterburners. It's not exactly a hot rod, but relies on its stealth capabilities, and the fact that it can drop weapons from a relatively safe 40,000 feet. The B-2 is essentially a giant flying bomb bay. It carries more munitions than a B-52, over 40,000 pounds of payload. Precision-guided weapons are loaded onto a rotary firing system, a sort of lazy Susan from hell. The B-2 low observable technology is a combination of composite materials and special coatings used to maintain stealthiness. It's this composite skin that raised questions in the GAO report. Like all aircraft, the skin of the B-2 is subject to damage from bird strikes and other foreign objects. The repair process is fairly straightforward.
What we would do is, if we got a bird strike, the solid material, it would separate from the core. It would be called a disc bond. And what we'd have to do is remove the skin, replace the core if it was damaged, lay the plies back in, stack them back up, cook them down. After we got them cooked down, we would get something like this. This resin bleed out, we would have to sand off to meet our surface smoothness requirements. We'd then go call our non-destructive inspection section. They would verify that we have got the bond and it's good to go, and we would apply the required low observable coatings.
However, these repairs must be done out of the elements in a hangar or other shelter. The GAO report stated that should the B-2 be deployed to a forward area, it must be kept out of the elements during maintenance procedures, not that it loses its stealth capabilities in the rain. The Air Force wants us to know
that the airplane is combat ready, that the airplane today can fly through rain and other adverse weather without a degradation to its combat capability.
To drive home this point, the Air Force gave a less than subtle demonstration of this fact by giving the B-2 a thorough washdown. The Air Force also says that the B-2 is still very much in the developmental stage.
A lot of people are trying to jump to goals that have been established for the mature Block 30 fleet, which won't occur until 25,000 fleet hours or 100,000 fleet hours. We've just had delivery of the first Block 30 that has about 25 hours on the airplane.
The Air Force is confident that the projected fleet of 21 B-2s will do the job asked of it. Some members of Congress, predictably those from districts where the B-2 is manufactured, tried to buy 8 more aircraft, but funding for the additional planes did not make the cut in this year's defense budget. So, did the American people get their money's worth from the B-2? Only time will tell. The program was cut from 300 aircraft to just over 20, but those 20 aircraft have the potential to perform as no aircraft in history and to change the way wars are fought. But the question remains, is any aircraft worth $2 billion a copy? And will we ever use the expensive aircraft? Considering that few in politics, the military, or the press predicted the downfall of the Soviet Union until it happened, the Air Force contends that in this increasingly complex world, it's best to err on the side of safety.